It's day 15 of the Advent calendar, my friends. Yesterday we talked about specialist skills, restoratives, and specialist tactics and builds. Today we'll talk about sharpshooter skills, critical hits, and sharpshooter tactics and builds.
The time has come to reclaim our world. Welcome back, Commander.
Incoming transmission.
Day 15, strategy, sharpshooter skills. The Sharpshooter is XCOM 2's sniper rifle and pistol wielding soldier class. They begin with squad sight, which allows them to target enemies within a squad mate's line of sight, as long as you have line of sight to the target. There's an aim penalty that accumulates with distance beyond your own sight range. And there is a 10% crit penalty that is constant at all targets outside of your own sight range. It also doesn't allow Overwatch to trigger at squad sight range normally. So the aim penalty means that your sniper can't stay too far away from all the enemies they'll be shooting at. And generally that you'll have to reposition more than you did in XCOM 2012. It also means that you're going to want to bump up your aim as much as possible, as if you didn't already, when making long-range shots. And that cover destruction, basically anything that makes enemies easier to hit, is going to be beneficial to your squad sight targeting. So let's get to the choices. In the sniper perk tree, you have Long Watch, and in the gunslinger perk tree, you have Return Fire. Long Watch says allows Overwatch to trigger at squad sight. So this means that when you go into Overwatch, which you can whether you have this ability or not, it just means that your sniper rifle will not trigger Overwatch shots beyond their normal visual range. If you take this ability, they will. That has perks and it has problems. For one, there's an aim penalty that accumulates with distance, right? So depending on which enemy moves first, you may have your choice of the battlefield. This may trigger on an enemy really far away if your squad is really spread out or the action is happening a large distance from your sniper. If one of your squad mates can see someone, you can target it at squad sight range, and if they move, you're going to take that shot. That means that Long Watch doesn't really give you as much control as you might like, but generally your squad will be fairly close together. You'll try and engage as few enemies as possible. And while Long Watch may trigger on an enemy fairly far away, it is going to be, especially if you have height advantage, I think Long Watch is going to be great. If you lack height advantage, Long Watch may be kind of a waste. But overall, I think Long Watch is the better skill compared to Return Fire. Return Fire says automatically return fire with your pistol once per turn when attacked. Does not trigger off Overwatch. So you're not going to run someone's Overwatch and then shoot them in the face, which would be awesome, but a little weird and unbalanced. So Return Fire, you take your pistol. If anyone attacks you, that's melee, ranged attacks, whether it hits, whether it misses, you're going to pop a pistol shot back at them. No bonus aim or anything like that. You're just going to take one. I think this is a little weaker than Long Watch. For one, Return Fire requires you to be shot at or attacked, something you probably want to avoid, as the Sharpshooter class is likely to be one of the squishier classes. And two, there's no guarantee it's going to be accurate. Even worse than Long Watch, which may trigger at enemies really far away if they move first. Return Fire is going to be pretty random. It'll help you if you are maintaining a really close position to the enemy. So for a pure gunslinger build, which kind of requires that, I can see taking it. But I think Long Watch is going to be better overall for almost all sharpshooters. The next choice is between Deadeye and Lightning Hands. Deadeye is a sniper perk. It says take an aim penalty of 25% and increase the base damage of your weapon by 50% for this shot. Deadeye is going to let you trade excess accuracy for damage, which is awesome. A pretty good trade. I like it. I do like it. Lightning Hands it says make a free attack with your pistol that has a 3-turn cooldown. So that means it takes no actions whatsoever. You can just whip out that pistol, take a shot, and still have both of your actions left, do exactly whatever you were going to do beforehand. I actually have a really hard time choosing between these two, and I'm going to call it a draw. The only draw I found out of all the skills that you have to choose from. The reason is Deadeye, increasing your base damage by 50%, that's like at least 2 damage. It's probably more like 3, 4, maybe even 5 at the end of the game. And that's a lot. And Sharpshooter is going to be really accurate. And if you're up on high ground, like over accurate is not usually something you can take advantage of. And here you get an extra 50% damage, which is pretty sick. It also combos well with the Sniper Ultimate. Lightning Hands, however, is just going to let you be incredibly flexible with what you do. It'll guarantee you can get 2 pistol shots off and around fairly regularly. It means that you can take a shot with the pistol and then still use your sniper rifle. I tend to think Lightning Hands is going to be taken more, but I think that you can do really good work with Deadeye, especially late in the game. But it'll be a little frustrating early and people will start to pass over it, is my guess. But really, I have no preference. I would probably take Lightning Hands if I had any ability to rupture enemies and increase damage from follow-up attacks. I will say that. But of course, Lightning Hands, you have to be within pistol range, doesn't function from squad sight. Your next choice is between Death from Above and Quick Draw. Death from Above says killing an enemy at a lower elevation costs only 1 action and doesn't end your turn. Normally, firing the sniper rifle requires 2 actions, and so it must be done at the beginning of your turn and it takes up your whole turn. Death from Above says killing an enemy at a lower elevation costs only 1 action, and doesn't end your turn. So you can take 2 sniper rifle shots if you kill someone using Death from Above. This will also function with pistols, and it shouldn't be too hard to score a pistol kill with the numerous pistol shots you're going to get every action. Note that the pistol doesn't actually have any ammo, and so you can just reel that off without ever reloading, which is a very nice perk. I think Death from Above is quite strong. It's basically the double tap that you had. You do have to ensure a kill. Note that this will combo well with Deadeye, allowing you to get a sniper rifle kill with your first shot, and Lightning Hands, because having the ability to finish off a 1 or 2 point enemy, health enemy with a free pistol shot is enough to do it as well. I'm not sure how the action cost works if you kill someone with a free action, but I'm pretty sure... Yeah, that's a good question. Anyway, and Quick Draw. I favor Quick Draw out of these choices. It says you may fire a pistol as your first action without ending your turn. Now, these are kind of similar, but Quick Draw doesn't come without the stipulation that you actually have to kill something. And later in the game, killing things is going to be much harder. And you're not going to be able to do it with just 1 well-placed sniper shot most of the time. So I think with Quick Draw, you can actually fire your pistol twice if you don't move, or you can fire your pistol and move back. I think Quick Draw is going to make you a lot more flexible. But of course, you have to be within pistol range for this to make any difference. So that means you're going to have to stay closer to your enemies than you might like. It will, however, help you, as will Lightning Hands, as will all the pistol abilities, if you get jumped by quick-moving enemies, or if enemies move within your actual line of sight, which will happen fairly regularly throughout the game. So I favor Quick Draw. It plus Lightning Hands means you can get out 3 pistol shots in a turn, and against ruptured enemies, which I think Rupture is going to be how you're going to deal with the most brutal enemies. And especially against enemies where you've burned down their armor, which is really, really required for the gunslinger to be terribly effective, is low or no armor on your targets. You're going to find that Rupture plus Shredded Armor means that the gunslinger build is going to rock the damage, even if they do have to get close. So, I favor Quick Draw. Death from Above is good and is the only useful one if you're maintaining a strict squad sight only targeting a rule for your snipers. Kill zone is the next choice from the sniper tree, and face off is the next from the gunslinger. Kill zone says, take a reaction shot at any enemy that moves or attacks within an extended cone from your position. Note that the reaction shot actually preempts enemy attacks. That is, if they choose to attack, you will take a shot before that attack finishes. Face off says fire once at every visible enemy with your pistol. Doesn't work with squad sight. So I favor kill zone here. For one, again, take a reaction shot at any enemy that moves or attacks within an extended cone from your position. The cone is huge. It starts off quite narrow, but by the end, it's like 12 to 15 tiles across, enough to cover like a whole building, and all the entrances and exits. I think kill zone is awesome. It gives you a lot of attacks against a lot of people, and you're using the sniper rifle, not the pistol, which means you will be dealing significant damage on anything you hit. It basically gives you covering fire, because it also works on enemies that attack. So it's really powerful. It will use up all your ammunition. And face-off won't use up any ammunition because it's a pistol. However, kill zone can be performed from really advantageous positions where you have height advantage on every shot. I think kill zone is going to be great, especially for well-positioned and prepared snipers. And a just really cool ability. Face-off is awesome too. You get a pistol shot at every enemy you can see. The problem with this is, one, if you can see them personally, then they can see you. And two, the pistol doesn't do that much damage, and you're spreading all the damage out over a bunch of targets. So while face-off is going to be cool, and it's going to be great to break concealment with it, like probably the perfect concealment breaker ability, because everyone will be standing out in the open, it is probably going to leave you exposed. It's going to leave you within sight range of multiple enemies unless you finish them all off. It's going to be great if you're flanking everyone, but then your sharpshooter is either really far ahead of your enemies or your squad is cut in half. And I think kill zone is going to be much better because it's much safer, and it's something you can prepare. And for all those withdraw, for all the times I've said what you should do is withdraw from this enemy and prepare an ambush, kill zone is the ultimate one-man ambush skill. So I'm going to say kill zone is the way to go. For almost everyone, I think kill zone kind of trumps face-off, but if you're going pure gunslinger, you're probably going to want face-off. The next choice is between steady hands and aim. Steady hand says if you didn't move last turn, gain 10 aim and crit chance. Aim says when you hunker, gain 20 aim at the start of your next turn. So steady hands says if you didn't move, gain 10 aim and 10 crit. I believe steady hands is always going to be a bit more useful than aim. For most, in almost all circumstances, I believe you're going to get steady hands far more than you're going to get the aim bonus. One, because you have to actively hunker with aim. Although this is nice because you can definitely take a single move towards the enemy to get into visual sight and then hunker to stay safe. This will allow you to next turn then fan fire or face off or whatever gunslinger abilities you want to unleash on the enemy. Now, I don't know if aim applies to just your first shot next turn or your first attack next turn. If so, then it's going to be great with face off because you get multiple attacks. It'll be great with face off and fan fire because you get multiple attacks, and I assume they would all gain the plus 20 aim bonus. Steady hands improves your crit and your aim, which is going to be nice. As crit chance is hard to get, and 10 aim is good. By the end of the game, that 10 aim, you're probably going to turn into Deadeye if you're a dedicated sniper to trade it for extra damage. Remember, if you ever fire your sniper rifle, then steady hands will be active at the beginning of your next turn, making firing your sniper rifle a really good choice. And it also, steady hands will combo really nicely with lightning hands and quick draw. If you take 3 pistol shots in one turn, which you can, then they will all gain 10 aim and 10% crit chance. And one of the few ways you can increase your crit chance, your chance of getting a crit, is by shooting a lot. So I would say steady hands almost always the better choice, unless you have a very particular play style where you intend to hunker quite a bit. Now, the aim skill is a great cross-class skill, especially with the the specialist, who can double move and then hunker. And having those two skills together might actually be worth speccing around. But I think steady hands is almost always going to take it. The last choice you have is between serial and fan fire. Serial says, for every sniper rifle kill, your action is refunded. Each kill reduces your crit chance for the next shot, and there's a 4-turn cooldown. So this is kind of a mode that activates when you get a kill with your sniper rifle. This is against the fan fire gunslinger ability, which says fire your pistol 3 times at the same target. I think fan fire is going to be better overall here. Even if you're primarily a sniper and you stick to squad sight ranges, eventually something is going to get too close to you. It's at this point when being able to fire a pistol 3 times at the same target is going to be great. Presumably, you can also combo this with lightning hands and quick draw for 5 pistol shots in 1 turn. The beauty of this is if your enemy is ruptured, and this is basically the synergy that I think gives this the nod. If your enemy is ruptured, then every one of your pistol hits is going to deal 2, maybe 3 extra damage, depending on who ruptured them and how. If you can get off 5 attacks on a single target, and they each do 2 or 3 extra damage, that's up to 15 extra damage. You could literally cut a sectopod in half with the pistol abilities if you've ruptured it previously with your grenadier. That's just ridiculous. That's so much damage. Also, so many attacks. One of the problems with XCOM is you can miss an 87% sniper shot. But what you won't miss is 5 87% pistol shots. Matter of fact, you're going to get 4 of them. Statistically speaking, you could miss them all, but it's incredibly unlikely. So I'm going to say that fanfire comes with kind of the statistical advantage. You're just going to get so many shots that you can guarantee you're going to put someone down. And getting guaranteed anything in XCOM is really important to letting you make solid, foolproof tactical decisions. Serial, for every sniper rifle kill, your action is refunded. You can just go on a shooting rampage if you're depending on crits, because eventually your crit chance will drop to below 0. But it requires there be enemies to kill. If you're facing 1 sectopod, Serial is going to do absolutely jack for you. And then if you kill that sectopod with your sniper rifle, guess what? There's nothing to do with your actions except, you know, move and reload and stuff. But I would say Serial is more situational than fanfire. Then again, fanfire requires you to be at close range. So I'm going to give the nod to fanfire in a big way thanks to Rupture, but plenty of people take Serial for their dedicated.
Incoming transmission.
Day 15, Tactics, Critical Hits. So not everything is known about how critical hits work in XCOM 2, so I'm going to go over how they worked in XCOM 2012 in a general way, and then we'll talk about what you can do to ensure you get more in XCOM 2. So in XCOM 2012, Enemy Unknown and Enemy Within, critical hits basically did the max damage for your weapon, and then maybe 2 more. It was something like that. It was basically, they usually did at least as much as the max damage your weapon could do, plus 2. Basically what happened was the base damage of your weapon had 1 added to it or something, and was then multiplied by 50%. 150%, so it increased by 50%. And occasionally they threw in an extra point or 2. So if you had a 4 to 6 damage weapon, say it was base damage 5, then it would get like plus 2.5 points of damage from a critical hit, maybe 3. this was always nice. It means you were doing basically an attack and a half if you got a crit. But the chances are really low. I think the highest was 20%, maybe 30% on one weapon, maybe. And you just couldn't depend on that. There are skills that raised your crit chance significantly. Aggression, close quarter specialist, maybe what it was called in Enemy Unknown. But these weren't too reliable unless you were right next to an enemy or flanking them, or in addition to flanking them. Still, crits were nice. The way you can ensure that you get more crits, and all the crits I've seen have basically, they could be following this formula for XCOM 2. The crits I've seen have been good damage. They never seem to do less than the weapon could do on its own. And it always seems like a shot and a half when it hits. So you can increase your chance at crits, which is great because it packs a lot more power into, you know, a single action, through your base weapon. The base weapon has a crit chance on it, and that's going to determine whether you're going to get crits occasionally or almost never. Sniper rifles tend to have high base crit chance. The shotguns, I think, have a high base crit chance. It's been a while. I've been in modding land for so long and playing so much Long War, I forgot the base. But you can expect rifles and pistols and other things to have practically like 10% or maybe no crit chance base. There is one really easy way to boost your crit chance by a ton, and that is to target enemy that uses cover and doesn't currently have any against you. That means cover destruction and flanking. The crit bonus is a standard 50%, which is crazy good, and it's an incredibly advantageous position to be in, even if you don't consider the fact that they don't have the defense they normally would have from cover. The other ways you can increase crit chance are skills, maybe equipment, and then there's probably some tactics and stuff. For example, the Guerrilla Tactics School allows you to purchase an upgrade for the Sharpshooter class in general, which increases their crit chance by 10% overall. I assume that applies to pistols as well. So that is a good way to get a lot of extra crits on your gunslingers because they have a lot of attacks. Obviously, the more attacks you make, the more likely you are to crit. I would suggest never counting on a critical hit for a soldier's survival. But if you're going to flank someone, you can factor it into your equation pretty strongly because your crit chance is likely to be from 60 to 100%, depending on what weapons you're wielding, what skills. And that's anything over 80% is pretty reliable. So in general, I wouldn't worry about critical hits unless you're flanking. If you need a critical hit, you pretty much have to flank. Enemies that don't use cover don't expect to ever get a critical hit on unless you're really lucky or there's some kind of special weakness to them.
Incoming transmission.
Day 15, Disposition, Sharpshooter Tactics and Builds. So when you're designing your perfect sharpshooter, I want you to know that I didn't find any particular sharpshooter skill that I would never ever take. What that kind of means, and I think they're in the right trees for the most part, I would say that if you go straight down the sniper tree, you're going to be just fine. I don't think you can get a lot more flexibility out of your soldier, but if you're always going to fight from squad sight range and you're always going to hang back and you don't mind them not being able to protect themselves when an enemy rolls up on them unexpectedly, maybe one of those teleporting codexes, for example, then go for it because they're going to be great at landing those deadly shots. Deadeye's going to be great at the end. Killzone is awesome. Serial is going to help you finish off a squad of weak or wounded enemies, or occasionally give you your action back, whatever, it doesn't matter. Fanfire was never going to help you to begin with. And, you know, you're going to be great. Stick to the high terrain, especially once you get the flying armor, just float around in that all day long, and you're going to be fine, and an effective soldier. If you go the gunslinger path, I suggest taking all the gunslinger perks except for maybe aim. It's tough. Aim is going to let you play more defensively. Steady hands is still going to be useful. That one's just a play style preference for the pure gunslinger. And it might depend on if that aim bonus lasts for multiple attacks, and if steady hands last for multiple attacks. One of them may be clearly superior because it applies to all your attacks for the turn. I haven't really seen it in action. I would say maybe take steady hands. That's just my preference. But being able to hunker is really effective and can waste some enemy turns. And then gaining 20 aim from that on your next turn is pretty awesome. And of course, that would even work with a sniper rifle. But yeah, the gunslinger build goes together just like magic, easy peasy. Now, if you're going to mix the two, then I have a build for you. I call it the Folger because it's good till the last one drops. I would personally take, for the best all-around sharpshooter, I think, I would take Long Watch so that you can trigger Overwatch at squad site. Great for setting up ambushes, great for concealment, keeps you nice and safe. I think Return Fire is kind of weak because you have to be shot at or whacked with a stick for it to work. Then I would take Lightning Hands because any free attack is going to be really useful. You're just going to find yourself using it all the time. You can tempt the RNG simply by taking the shot, like why not? It's just super, super useful. You can even move and then use Lightning Hand. It's just going to be great. It's going to be great. It may struggle a little bit against the tougher in-game enemies, but even they will at some point reach a low number of hit points, and Lightning Hands is going to be a tempting way to see if you can take them out, no matter what their cover is. Like, why not use Lightning Hands half the time? So I think over the course of the game, Lightning Hands will be better. It does kind of fall off towards the end. Deadeye is excellent. I think at the beginning, it's a little weak, and it strengthens a bit by the end, but they're both fine choices. Then I would take Quick Draw. I almost guarantee I'll take Quick Draw because I don't have to kill someone to get an extra action in during my turn, which makes Quick Draw really, really strong. Death from Above is great because of the 2 sniper shots. Quick Draw is way, way, way more flexible. And when you get ambushed, you're going to be able to pull out Lightning Hands and take a shot. It didn't die. You're going to be able to Quick Draw and take a shot. Maybe it did die. Maybe it didn't. And then you're going to be able to do something else. It gives you a lot of ability to make good cascading decisions because there's a lot of nice little decision points. You don't commit a ton. Also, it'll let you reload, whatever, your sniper rifle while getting off 2 pistol shots, or, it's just really, really flexible. And at some point, you're totally going to be within range of the enemy. And with the Folger, you're probably going to stay just slightly behind your squad, and you're likely to move up to help finish off squad enemies as they as you wear them down. So after Quick Draw, I would take Killzone because Killzone is awesome, and it allows you to prepare uber nasty ambushes, which I think is much stronger than shooting the pistol at a lot of different people. Firing the sniper rifle at a lot of different people, so much better. Then I would take Steady Hands because I think that is a generally stronger trait, and you don't have to do anything to activate it. If you just sit still and shoot, Steady Hands will activate next turn, which I think is great. It also increases your crit chance, which is a little more valuable to the Sharpshooter class, which attacks so much, than straight aim, especially because you can expect the Sharpshooter to have really good aim to begin with. And lastly, I would take Fanfire. I think the triple attack is just so good, it's going to scale way up once you start getting Rupture abilities on your Psi Operatives or your Grenadiers. And each of those hits does extra damage. It's going to suck against enemies with armor, but it's just really strong, and the damage you're going to be able to do is really good, especially if you flank someone. It's going to make you much more dangerous up close and personal, And if you get flanked, it will actually allow you to take care of the attacker yourself, instead of having to pull in the ranger from maybe across the squad or whatnot. Or maybe you and the ranger can tackle a whole little flanking platoon of enemies with all your various gunslinger abilities. So that is my build for the ultimate sharpshooter. I think it's quite strong. It does suffer in the sniping ability and a little bit in the gunslinging ability compared to truly dedicated sharpshooters, but I think overall you'll get the most out of your campaign from going with exactly this build. Long watch, lightning hands, quick draw, kill zone, steady hands, and fan fire. So yeah, that is it for the sharpshooters. They are a deadly build class. They get a lot of attacks, especially if you go gunslinger, and they're kind of built to beat the RNG at the aiming game so that you can guarantee that you'll deal damage in a consistent fashion with these excellent and deadly soldiers. Alright friends, that's it for day 15. If you enjoyed this content, please go ahead and like this video. If you'd like to see the next Advent Calendar video as soon as it comes out, please subscribe to my channel. Tomorrow we're going to be talking about XCOM 2012 mods. That's for Enemy Within and Enemy Unknown. We'll be talking about XCOM Long War in particular, and we'll be talking about the modding potential of XCOM 2.